What is leveling up, really? Just reaching a certain amount of XP or a milestone and then you gain a couple of HP, some new abilities, maybe a couple of spells? All that just seems a bit boring. There's like this gap in my head where you have leveling up on a piece of paper and the actual physical embodiment of growing stronger and actually means something. So let's talk about it. One of the things I keep circling back to whenever I'm prepping a level up session, there's a difference between a character developing and a character growing. Development is just you learn something new about who they already were, like backstory stuff. But growth is different. Growth in this sense is the character actually changing because something outside them pushed on them hard enough to crack the shell. And modern D&D, especially 5e, is really only built for one kind of growth. The number kind. More hit points, bigger attack bonus. Cool. But I'm scaling the monsters right along with you. So if your level 1 guy had a 50% shot to hit a null, your level 15 demigod has a 50% shot to hit a fire giant. You didn't get stronger relative to the world, you just got a bigger number attached to a bigger number. This is bounded accuracy, by the way, if you want the technical term for it. 5e does this on purpose so the math doesn't spiral out of control, and a horde of kobolds can theoretically still threaten a high level party, which is fine. I get why they did it, but the side effect is fights just take longer, monsters have more HP, you have more HP, and the actual feel of the fight barely moves. You end up with some genuinely absurd stuff at the table constantly. A level 20 guy who can drop a meteor on a city has like a coin flip chance of kicking down a wooden door, which makes it not feel like epic fantasy, it just feels like flavor text at that point. And then there's the sleep thing, which honestly bugs me more than it should. Your character goes to bed after killing the big bad, wakes up the next morning knowing a brand new 4th level spell, never practiced it, never studied it, it's a video game mechanic that we're dressing up to make it seem like it fits at our tables, and it eats the weight right out of the moment. So if D&D's version of leveling up is kind of hollow, what's actually working? And I think the answer is obvious. Anime's been nailing this forever. There's a concept I've seen called Reciprocal Escalation, and once you see it, you can't unsee it in every good shonen ever made. The idea is simple, the hero doesn't just level up in a vacuum. Every time they get stronger, the villain answers back immediately. Like it's a conversation, the villain invades sooner, reveals a new form, calls in backup, expands the whole battlefield. Nobody's just standing still waiting to get punched by the new power. Naruto learns Sage Mode, and it doesn't happen in a training montage in a peaceful meadow. It happens because Pain just leveled an entire village. Naruto uses the new power to take out Pain's summons, and Pain's answer is basically, cool, here's a planetary devastation attack. That's not a mechanical flex, it's a test of what Naruto actually believes. My Hero Academia does the same trick. Deku deepens his control over One For All, and at the exact same time, Shigaraki wakes up and his whole network expands into something closer to a war. Demon Slayer is the same. Tanjiro grinding through Hashira level training, sure, but it happens on a literal clock while Muzan is out there hunting down the people Tanjiro cares about. Your player's advancement and your villain's advancement need to be one coupled system. Don't just throw bigger HP bags at a party that just leveled up. Move the fight to the villain's lair, add regional effects tied to their power, bring in a lieutenant nobody's met yet, or let the boss survive the party's shiny new ability and immediately show a second phase nobody saw coming. The rhythm I'm going for now is basically unlock a capability, villain adapts, stakes change, players make a new choice, then they earn the advancement in that order. So basically the 4 steps are emotional stakes, tactical shift, visual spectacle, and the price of power. Alright, so let's talk about what makes a power up hit, because I find just saying make it emotional is easy to say and kind of useless to actually do at the table. So let's break it down. The first one, emotional stakes. A transformation doesn't come out of nowhere, it comes out of a crisis. Goku doesn't grind enough balls to hit a threshold and go Super Saiyan. He goes gold because Krillin just died in front of him. That's the trigger, it's grief. Second, there has to be an actual tactical shift, not just a number shift. When Ichigo pops his Bankai, he actually moves different, he thinks different. This is where I think horizontal stuff just beats vertical stuff every time. Give your players a new option, not a bigger die. The third, and look, I know we're not all anime studios with animation budgets, but you have a voice and some objectives. Use them. Anime leans hard on color, red for adrenaline, blue for that calm, controlled feeling, and you can do the same thing at your table, don't say you deal 24 damage, say the air goes cold and frost is climbing up the wall behind her. Describe the thing, overwrite the mechanic with the emotion behind it, you know? And fourth, put a price on power. If there's no cost, the whole thing feels weightless. Goku's Super Saiyan 3 wrecks his body just to maintain. Gon in Hunter x Hunter goes nuclear and burns through his own future to do it. At your table, tie the big spikes to something, whether that be exhaustion, corruption, a spent resource, or a strained relationship with an ally who doesn't like what you've just became. Use limitations, they're just more interesting than raw capability every time. Now we talk about the training arc. I have a complicated relationship with training arcs, honestly, because half the time in fiction they're a slog. Pause the plot, dump some mechanics on the audience, watch a guy do push-ups underwater for a while. But the reason they exist is real. They're there to make the power feel earned, and they show you the rules of the power before someone's life depends on it. So how do you actually run this at the table? There's a few things I actually do. I don't pause the world for it. Run the training as its own pressure cooker scene. While they're desperately trying to land a new spell, show me the villain's army creeping closer on the map. When they finally get it right, the need is urgent. Make it diegetic. Look at something like Call of Cthulhu. You don't get skills from a pile of abstract XP. You get better at things you actually did. You mark a skill when you use it successfully, and during downtime you roll to see if it's improved. Delta Green actually flips this. You improve specifically when you fail a check, because that's the hard lesson, and I kind of love that actually. Sometimes though, the right move is to not let them finish the training at all. Look at Jujutsu Kaisen. Power in that show isn't really a stat you grind, it's basically psychological. When somebody lands a black flash or their domain expands for the first time, they understand something about themselves mid-swing that they didn't understand 5 seconds earlier, and there's actually a reason for that. If your character shows up to the boss fight already having mastered the cool new thing safely in their backyard, the fight kind of loses its edge, you know? You already know they can do it, so where's the tension? Instead, a lot of these characters keep failing at the new technique during downtime. There's a mental block, some doubt that they haven't shaken yet, and it's only when they get thrown into the meat grinder that the pressure finally clicks that last piece into place. Now I know some people roll their eyes at the mid-fight aha moment, call it an arse pull, a cheap out. And sure, if a power just shows up with zero setup because the plot needed it to, fair, that's lazy writing. But if you've been foreshadowing the struggle the whole time, and then the click is tied to something the character's actually been wrestling with, it's not really a cheap trick, is it? It's a pretty good payoff. So here's how I've started using this at my own table, and step one is just stop handing your players the coolest features while they're asleep at the tavern. If someone's about to hit a milestone that unlocks something big, like the paladins getting their aura or sorcerer gets a bloodline feature, whatever, tell them they can feel it, it's sitting right there under the skin, but they don't get to use it yet, they need a catalyst. Then you wait until the fight is at 0 hit points, the healer's out of spell slots, and it genuinely looks like the table's about to lose someone. And that's the moment that you say your friend's bleeding out on the floor in front of you, and something in you just snaps. You understand it now, tell me what this looks like as it wakes up. I promise you, people will actually yell at your table when you pull this. So it's probably worth mentioning that you want to do this with them at the beginning of your game. For the most part, people are going to say yes because it's a pretty epic way of getting new powers and stuff like that. And it's pretty similar to how Brennan's been dealing with it in the new campaign of Critical Role. And steal the resources narrative trick from stuff like Daggerheart, where hope and fear aren't just currencies, they're tied directly to how the character's feeling. Let a player spend something tied to their emotional state to manifest a new trick. It welds the fiction to the mechanic instead of bolting them together. Next up, let's talk about power creep, because if you run a game for long enough, you'll hit this wall. Characters just keep getting stronger faster than the threats can keep up, and eventually the numbers stop meaning anything. The fix, I think, is to stop treating vertical progression like it's the only kind that exists. Horizontal progression means giving someone more tools, not more damage. Instead of the wizard's fireball going from an 8d6 to 14d6. Give them the ability to phase through a wall. That's a different kind of powerful. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure actually did this mid-series on purpose. Harmon was straightforward martial arts power creep, so the creator pivoted the whole thing to stand these weirdly specific individual powers, which really changed how it all worked. It becomes, how do I solve the puzzle of this guy's very particular ability? My Hero Academia does this with Momo too. Her growth isn't about getting stronger in the conventional sense. She gets better at logistics and support, and that's just as satisfying to watch pay off. If you're sick of HP bloat at high levels, go look into the E6 variant rule set. The idea is that you cap level advancement at level 6, which is basically peak heroic fantasy, and then after that, every chunk of XP just buys a feat instead of bigger stat blocks. Power ceilings stay low, so a dragon or beholder stays terrifying forever, but the character keeps getting more versatile sideways instead of taller. I really like this as a philosophy, even if you don't run the exact rule set. And Daggerheart does something similar with domain cards. They're not like you get +1 to hit, you gain new tactical options and they get added to your hand. You're growing sideways, adding shape to the character instead of just height, which I love. And eventually, if your campaign runs long enough, you hit a point where none of this matters anymore because your character can teleport across the continent and raise the dead, and clearing a goblin cave is just beneath them. At that point, I think you have to change what the game itself is about, and this is where I'd push you towards domain play instead of asking, what can my character do? You're asking, what can my organization do? Let the fighter build a keep and raise an actual standing army, or let the wizard build a tower and start a research program, or even let the rogue build out a whole criminal network. The scale of the challenges shifts between them, which adds this whole new layer to it. It's rival factions, economic collapse, political uprisings. The mechanics of leveling up become about managing resources and legacy instead of hit points, which again, I really love. And this pairs with something I've started calling character directives. Milestone leveling works fine, but it can feel like I'm the one deciding when you get to grow, which sometimes fair, but it can also feel like railroading. So instead, I've started asking at the beginning of my campaigns to each player, what's your character's actual world-changing ambition? Maybe your paladin wants an entire unwilling kingdom to swear loyalty to them, or your wizard wants to dig up a lost library nobody's touched in 500 years. And they only level up when they hit a real concrete step towards that goal, which actually works really well. The players are the ones that are pushing the story forward to earn their own growth, instead of waiting for me to hand it to them. It's something that's worth trying. It actually worked really well for me when I've been playtesting with it. They're all just little pieces of the puzzle that make it easier for your players to feel like they're driving the story forwards. At the end of the day, I don't think leveling up should just be updating your character sheet. I really do think it's supposed to be a narrative tool. It's the physical shape of whatever your character just went through. Couple the escalation. When your players get stronger, make sure the villain answers back. Make it emotional. Tie the power spike to a crisis, a loss, a moment that actually cost them something. Widen the toolkit. Chase horizontal growth over just big numbers. And when your players start outgrowing everything around them, let them start shaping the world instead. That's what domain play and character directives are for. Let me know in the comments what you think about this idea. Let us know what your favorite level up moment was. If you're a GM and do this differently, please share your experiences below. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay spicy, adventurers.